Story 1. A couple of years ago, I started a job at Mart. I was in training as a cashier and still learning the ropes when a difficult customer got in my line. She had a full cart of items, and I started scanning as she was searching through her purse and looking around nervously. As I finished scanning, I told her the total, and she started throwing a tantrum because she lost her electronic benefits transfer card. At this point, there was a line forming behind her down into the clothing aisles, and I told her I would have to void her transaction if she couldn't pay right away. She continued berating me, calling me a stupid fool and other insults, insisting I should just let her take the order and go since it was already bagged and scanned out. I called over my trainer, who said the same thing I did, and this woman was still looking around as if she was searching for someone. We told her we could put her bags to the side until she came back with her payment, but she refused and started screeching that we were incompetent fools. I stepped out to let my trainer take care of it, and this woman grabbed a glass jar of sauce and hurled it right at me. It shattered across my back. I hit the floor, and she ran out of the store while security chased her down. It turned out this woman was only trying to distract us so her partner could steal something from electronics. As security dragged them back in, she started yelling at me that it was all my fault, and she was just defending herself from that mean person behind the register. The police were called, and she and her partner ended up going to jail for assault and theft. I didn't last long at Mart after that. I was terrified of customers like her, and they ended up closing most of the Marts in the area anyway due to bankruptcy or something similar. Story 2. I was roughly 10 or 11 at the time and in foster care. I have autism, not a severe case, and a disease called osteochondromas, so I couldn't play sports. My biological parents struggled with substance abuse issues, so I didn't learn the simple life skills that most children would know. My foster parent, she's not relevant to the story, had a babysitting job and had to hire another babysitter because of me. The babysitter was half deaf. Let's get this out of the way. The babysitter disliked me, and I don't know why. She would always say, "You're a stupid kid, you know that," or, "Really, I know kids younger than you who know how to do this." She knew I had autism, but she didn't seem to care that I had 2 disabilities. One time she crossed the line, and I couldn't hold myself back. She told me to take a shower, so I took it and went back down to tell her I was done. She stared at me and said, "You didn't take a shower." I didn't hear it. I replied, "Yes, I did. I took 20 to 30 minutes. She rolled her eyes, gave me a death glare, and almost yelled, "Take a shower, you autistic child." I rolled my eyes at that. She had said it so many times that it is stuck in my brain to this day. So I went up and took another shower, a little bit shorter this time, and told her I took my shower. She looked at me again and said, "You didn't take a shower. Showers take at least 20 minutes. She gave me another death look and grinned a tiny bit. "I'm the adult. You need to go take a shower, or I'll tell your mother." This time she flat out smiled. "Or do you even have a mother?" I was furious. It's one thing to make me take a shower 5 times, but nobody insults my mother. I turned on the shower faucet and just let the water run while I read a book. I read for about 40 minutes, then turned the water off and went down to tell her I was done. She finally said I could go and do whatever, so I went upstairs to do research on her. I got on my laptop and searched for her name on Facebook. I found 2 or 3 results, but luckily the first one was my babysitter. I found out that she had been making fun of me on her page. So I started reading. I eventually learned that she had 2 children that she also made fun of. She was a terrible person. 2 weeks went by, and I was finally ready to take revenge. I learned she hadn't been paying child support because her ex had taken the kids. I had her now. I called the authorities and told them about what I had found out. I also told them I had followed her on Facebook, and she admitted she had not been paying support. They said they would be there in 30 minutes. I waited 15 minutes, then I went downstairs to feed the flame. I told her I spilled my drink, and she looked at me like I was the dumbest person on this planet. "Why are you telling me? Go upstairs and clean it up." I told her I'm just a silly child, and I need assistance. "I don't care. Go upstairs and clean it." I told her no. That seemed to do it. She started fully yelling. Luckily, my sister wasn't there. She told me I needed to clean it up, or she'd force me to. She got even louder, her face now bright red. "Go clean it up, or I'll hurt you." I told her if she hurt me, I'd call the police. She slapped me across the face, hard. I heard the door open, and my face lit up. I told the officers she assaulted me and showed the red handprint on my face. They told me to go upstairs and that they'd deal with her. I listened very closely, and they instantly took her away. I felt amazing. I thankfully don't have to deal with that mean person ever again. Story 3. It's been 2 years, and I can finally post about this. This is an exciting story, so get ready. Background information. We live in an old and big manor that has been split into 3 attached houses. The houses are about 150 years old and were built around 5 huge giant sequoias, which were about 200 years old. In the UK, giant sequoias are very rare, and the 2 in our garden increased the house price by about £60,000. We live next to 2 really nice neighbors, one young couple and one older couple. The story? Unfortunately, our older neighbors passed away, so their child and her family moved in. Let's call her Jo. Jo was instantly difficult to deal with. We had been sharing chickens with the previous neighbors, and Jo agreed to keep sharing them. However, on her nights, she would constantly forget to put them away, so we would have to check them every night anyway. One night, her mischievous children thought it would be funny to open our personal duck pen in the night, which led to a mass slaughter. Later, the chickens met the same fate. About 2 years ago, there was a storm, and one of her sequoias somehow fell over and died. They were distraught understandably, but from then on, the jealousy started. She would constantly complain about how lucky we were to have 2 sequoias in our garden and how our sequoia was making too much shade in their garden. It wasn't. Anyway, we just thought it was Jo being difficult. There were a few mild threats like they would chop it down, or maybe the next storm would blow it down. Until we came back from a holiday in France to find a huge 6-meter stump and nothing else. I mean, how do you get rid of a 100-foot tree in like 2 weeks? 2 of our old British oak trees had been crushed as well. My mom and sisters were crying, my dad was red in the face, and we had no evidence Jo had done it. She claimed that there had been a storm and she had to get rid of it. We had a security camera at the front of the house, but you can get in the back if you go through a few fields. We then were given an £8,000 bill for damages to her property and to have the tree chopped up and removed. The wood alone would have been worth a small fortune. We had lost all hope, and 2 weeks had passed when my dad came running in from the garden. We had put up a wildlife camera a few months ago and had caught everything. We got a lawyer on the phone and started our legal action. We got a tree surgeon out who said it was an original specimen brought into the UK in 1860, along with the 2 that were in Elvaston Castle Country Park. There were 218 around the UK, but only 60 now. He also told us to call out an engineer because the roots might be in the foundation. So when they rot, it could damage the house. It turns out we would need to redo the foundations. Then we took Jo to court and sued them for damage to property, trespassing, and lots of other smaller claims. The tree would cost £250,000 to have another 2-year-old sequoia put in and looked after. It's basically impossible, plus the damage to the foundation, which was £200,000, and the 2 oaks, which were another £25,000. So with the smaller claims, it went to about £500,000, $700,000. They had to move out. We have now paid off the mortgage, done a lovely loft and kitchen conversion, and have basically redone the house and garden, as well as planted a 60-year-old sequoia tree in the back garden. We also had our kitchen counter and table made from the old sequoia. We now have a new lovely family living next to us with whom we share chickens, ducks, and pygmy goats. They are very nice, and I make a fortune babysitting their kids. Edit. Many of you wanted to hear about the court case, but she didn't stand a chance, and as soon as we revealed the footage to her and her lawyer, she gave up. The people who cut the tree down gave us the countertops for free as an apology. They were truly sorry. The neighbors had a second home, so they just sold the house and moved back to their smaller one. We feel bad for the old neighbors, but we do visit their graves because they were like family. Story 4. This story happened approximately 4 years ago to a friend of mine. He and his wife-girlfriend back then took out a house loan, bought a new Chevrolet Camaro, and in general, they were preparing for a life together. He had proposed to her. Because of their lack of free time due to their hard work to pay off the loan, they didn't have time for themselves, nor for the abnormal amount of other things such as housework. So they hired a maid. His first impressions of her were good, and they decided that she was the person they would trust. They handed her their house keys because they were at work most of the time she came around to clean their house. For the first few weeks, she worked hard and always paid attention to detail, nicely cleaning their house from the bottom to the very top. She was also instructed not to let anyone in and to always lock the door when she left. After 6 months of her working there, strange things began to happen. Not in any anomalous way, but things started to disappear being stolen. It all started with small things like batteries, which are barely noticeable when missing. But soon, things escalated as phone chargers, perfumes the more expensive ones, and some electrical gadgets went missing. My friend thought that he had simply lost them. But soon the maid raised suspicion as the things went missing when my friend wasn't present when she was detailing their house. But without any evidence, blaming her wasn't appropriate. He also found out on some social media that she had some serious debts, at least in thousands of dollars alimony, divorce court settlements, etc. So he decided to install security cameras, and he didn't tell the maid. 5 weeks forward, and he had enough evidence to press charges against her as the things she stole were valued at $250 plus in my country. Anything stolen above $250 is considered a crime. He got furious when his flash drive containing private documents, as well as some of his billing and official work documents, was stolen. But he wanted her to get even more into the stealing so he could get even more evidence against her. So he came up with a plan. He told the maid that he and his girlfriend would be gone for a week for a honeymoon, and that he would be going by taxi not to pay extra money airports charge for parking. That means his brand new Chevrolet Camaro would stay parked in the house the maid had keys to. They rented an apartment through Airbnb just a few blocks away from his place, and he placed a GPS tracking keychain in his car so he could see its location through the phone app. He then placed the car keys in a visible spot in the house so the maid would notice. All that was left was to wait for the magic to happen, and his intuition was right. After 2 days of almost constant watching of the GPS tracker's location, the car left the garage. All of a sudden, the car was cruising at 90 miles per hour on the highway. My friend immediately called the authorities. They caught the maid about 20 miles 30 kilometers away. And now the legal action could take place. He decided to press charges against the maid. At the court, the maid told the judges my friend had told her to drive the car to some untold location. She acted like she forgot where it was, and that the one who should go to jail was him because he wrongly accused her, and he just wanted to get money from her to pay his loan. But the tables turned. My friend and his lawyer showed the court all of the video evidence of her stealing his stuff valued highly above $250. It was around $40,000 including the car. So it was a crime. She started using strong language and telling every single lie she could think of. The security had to calm her down. She is facing 5 years in jail, and she was charged $5,000, including all the stolen property but the car, his lawyer fees, and some other court expenses. The price excluded the car because it was returned almost immediately. A few days later, police did a house check on her, and most of the stolen stuff was there. There were also some other things reported missing from other customers of hers. Due to her previous debts and her new ones, she will very likely become homeless when released from jail. Edit. A lot of you are commenting that my friend is not a good person. I agree with you. He isn't my close friend for a reason. He is a bit extreme.